Many of us assume that stock sound libraries mean bad or mediocre quality, and we tend to think that if we want to step up the quality, we'll need to drop some cash and buy some third-party, supposedly better offerings. But is that even true? Or can stock sound libraries sound just as good? Well, in this video, I'm going to be comparing a stock Steinway piano in Logic Pro X to a Native Instruments piano library that costs $99, which is the Grandeur, and the VSL piano library that costs $600, which is the VSL Bösendorfer Imperial. It's going to be a good one. Let's go. Hey guys, James here from James Here Productions. So to compare all these piano libraries, I performed and recorded 3 pieces of piano music on my digital piano. One of them is a Fugue by J.S. Bach, so classical music, my jam. One of them is a beautiful tune, is Richard Clayderman's version of Wedding of Love. And the last one is also a very pretty, but also very sad Naruto soundtrack called Sadness and Sorrow. So I'm covering 3 genres of piano music. Hopefully that's diverse enough to showcase these 3 pianos. I'll also include a link for you to download my MIDI performance in the description, so you can use it to audition various piano libraries yourself if you want. By the way, if you are a Naruto fan, tell me which one is your favorite character in the comments. Mine is Kakashi. I'm going to be reviewing these libraries based on 5 criteria I created, which are number 1, realism, meaning how realistic does the piano sound? Does it sound like it was recorded live, or does it sound a bit synthetic? Number 2, the sound quality, which is, does it sound pleasant to the ears? We want something that sounds like a real expensive piano, not a real but crappy piano found in a practice room in a high school. Number 3, customization, meaning how much can we tweak the piano, such as can we close the lid, change the pedal noise, change the dynamic range, and so on. Number 4, extensiveness, meaning how extensive is the sampling. For example, how many mics are available for us to tweak? Is the transition between velocity layers smooth? And lastly, number 5, playability, meaning how does it feel to play with the piano library? Does it respond like a real piano, or does it feel like I'm just triggering some samples using a digital piano? This one is hugely important for pianists like me, but not so much for others. The way I'm doing this comparison is that I'll use the exact same performance and I'll switch among different piano libraries while playing back the piano pieces so you can really hear the differences. Just to make sure you are only using your ears to judge, I won't show which piano library is being used during the shootout. And let's see if you can tell which one is the stock piano, which one is worth $99, which one is worth $600. Write down your guesses in the comments and I'll reveal which one is which at the end. Now, enough of the talking, let's take a listen to all these libraries. So, do you have your guesses? here's the review. How many did you guess correctly? Tell me in the comments, I would love to know. Now that you have heard all of them, here are my thoughts as a classical pianist. The first criterion is realism. I listen to a lot of classical piano recordings, and to me, the VSL Bösendorfer sounds the most authentic when it comes to emulating a piano performance that is recorded live. It sounds raw and musical. It just has that energy that I hear from real piano recordings. The resonances of the piano just sound really real as well. They are just a little bit imperfect, like how a real piano's resonances are. It also has a really realistic soundstage, meaning that it sounds like someone is playing the piano right in front of you. My only gripe with this piano is that some of the higher notes sound slightly synthetic and thin, especially compared to the Grandeur, and sometimes they even sound a little bit nasty. The Grandeur sounds really realistic as well, but I think it's just a tad too perfect when it comes to the resonances and the soundstage. You would rarely hear a piano sounding this perfect in person. But at the end of the day, the Grandeur sounds like a real piano, and its high notes sound fuller than the VSL Bösendorfers. Logic's stock Steinway piano may sound real enough to people who aren't well versed in piano, but compared to the other two, there's no competition. Resonances are almost non-existent, and that is especially apparent in the Fugue. The levels of the notes also seem to be inconsistent across the board. Some notes jump out more than the others, and some notes are quieter than they should be. Now let's talk about the sound quality of these libraries. You may have already noticed this, but Logic's piano sounds the widest in terms of stereo width, and VSL Bösendorfer sounds the least wide, and the Grandeur is not as wide as Logic's piano, but wider than VSL Bösendorfer, which is very interesting because it almost seems like Logic's piano is trying to compensate its lack of realism by sounding bigger. Now, sound quality is obviously a really subjective thing, so feel free to completely disagree or agree with me. I think the Grandeur sounds the best. Its low register are really full and huge and has a lot of weight, and the high registers are delicate, sweet, but still very full sounding. This piano library just feels like it can produce a wide range of textures. In comparison, Logic's Steinway sounds too mellow and weak, although it still sounds nice overall. The VSL Bösendorfer comes very close to the Grandeur, but I feel like it lacks the body that the Grandeur has in the low registers, and its high registers are just too thin and synthetic. Next up is customization. Both the Grandeur and the VSL Bösendorfer offer a lot of customization. The Grandeur allows you to change the lid from fully open to half closed to fully closed, for example. In VSL Bösendorfer, you can adjust the dynamic range and the EQ of each individual key, which is pretty damn cool. Compared to VSL Bösendorfer, the Grandeur offers more options when it comes to noises. You can adjust the hammer noise, the damper noise, the pedal noise, and the string noise in the Grandeur, whereas in VSL Bösendorfer, you can only adjust the pedal noise and the key noise. Both pianos offer a good amount of customization. Logic has almost no customization whatsoever. Now let's talk about how extensive is the sampling of these libraries. VSL Bösendorfer is a whooping 295GB library for the full version with 70 velocity layers for each key and over 4,000 samples per key. The folks at VSL sampled 11 microphones for this piano, and there are even surround sound options. This library takes up almost 8GB when you use it, and it can take up even more space if you add more microphones. That's nuts! In comparison, the Grandeur is only 13.7GB, has 18 velocity layers, and no microphone options. A regular patch only takes up about 180 megabyte for you to play. Now, I don't know how big Logic's Steinway piano is, but I guarantee you that it's smaller than the other two. It only has 4 velocity layers, and obviously it doesn't have any microphone options either. Lastly, let's talk about the playability, meaning how does it feel to play with it on a digital piano? This is entirely subjective and dependent on what keyboard you're using and what you are used to. Different people also prefer different things when it comes to how a piano feels, be it acoustic or digital. As a classical pianist, I feel that playing with the Grandeur is the best experience. It responds really well, and I really feel that I'm in control with the dynamics when I'm playing. The sounds I'm triggering with my fingers are exactly how I expect them to be, which is so awesome. The VSL Bösendorfer is very similar, but I could never get used to how it responds, and I feel like the sound I'm triggering can be louder or quieter than I intend to. I just don't feel a connection between my fingers and the piano library like I do with the Grandeur. I do believe it is entirely possible that another pianist finds this piano to be extremely playable. Now, Logic's Steinway is almost unplayable to me. 4 velocity layers are just not enough for an instrument as dynamic as the piano. The levels of notes and the tones of the notes are just really inconsistent, and I really felt that I was just triggering some samples when I was playing with Logic's Steinway. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I was really surprised that I liked the Grandeur more than the Bösendorfer. I really assumed that a $600 piano would give me an even better playing experience and sound than a $99 one. In fact, I was actually saving up for the Bösendorfer, but after trying out the trial, I've decided to stick with the Grandeur. I'll admit that I wish Logic's Steinway were better, so I can say something like, aha, it's wrong of you to assume that Logic's stock piano is bad, but I guess in this case, if you want a good piano library, you do need to spend some money on a third-party one. That's it for this video. Give it a like if you enjoy it and find it helpful and entertaining. Check out my other videos to learn how to customize the note names in Logic's piano roll and to see if you should get an Apple Silicon Mac or an Intel Mac. Subscribe if you want more music production content. Now get back to your DAW and make more music. And see you next time.